Madagascar, a franchise that I've been watching ever since I was introduced to movies. It's got great humor, excellent music, and funny characters, but I wanted to learn more about these characters, like how old are they, for example, and that sparked an idea. Today I'm going to explain all of the main characters' ages in the Madagascar franchise, starting with Alex and working our way up. Alex, the king of the jungle, and essentially the main character of the franchise. But how old is he? Well, according to my best friend Google, male African lions can live for somewhere between 10 to 15 years in the wild. But Alex spent a chunk of his life in captivity. African lions who live in zoos actually have a lifespan of about 25 whole years. That's double the amount of time. Now, how old was Alex exactly during the events of the franchise? Well, according to the Madagascar wiki, Alex was actually 15 years old in human years during the Madagascar film, specifically the third one. 1 human year equals up to 2.29 lion years, meaning that since Alex was 15 in human years, he must be 34.29 years old in lion years. We'll just round that up to 34 years of age for Alex the lion. Nice, Alex. Also, if I remember correctly, one person on the DVD commentary of the second film actually implied that the scene of Alex arriving in New York from the ocean at the beginning took place in the 70s, which would make him considerably older than the rest of the bunch. However, since that material was not actually explained in the film, or any material deriving from such, that particular matter cannot be ruled as canon, but it's still an interesting gain in terms of theory, and it does add up with some of the claims in All Hail King Julien. Marky, the quirky zebra played by Chris Rock. The first movie is set when Marty has just turned 10 years old in human years. Zebras have an average lifespan of about 20 to 25 years, which lines up with how Marty said,
"Look at me. I'm 10 years old. My life is half over."
10 human years is equivalent to about 35 and a half zebra years, so Marty is around about the same age as Alice, considering that the films theoretically took place over the course of around 5 to 7 animal years. Gloria, the mother of the group. Hippos live for around about 40 to occasionally 50 whole years in the wild. I would assume that Gloria would be similar to the same age as the others in hippo years, and yes, Gloria was said to have been around about 35 in hippo years, meaning that Gloria the hippo is exactly 20 years old in human years during the Madagascar films. And then there's Melman, the painfully paranoid giraffe, the final member of the OG zoo gang. Apparently, Melman was actually a couple of animal years younger than the other three, putting him at a whopping 34 giraffe years old. Giraffes live about 20 to 25 years, so pretty much the exact same as Alex and Marty. 1 human year equals 3.5 giraffe years, meaning that Melman is just under 10 years old during the events of the first movie. Maybe he got those double digits while the gang was stranded on Madagascar. So that's the original 4 zoo gang members. Now we head on to the more complicated leading characters throughout the franchise. The funny and charming yet extremely psychotic penguins, Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and of course Private. I think that it's pretty safe to say that these 4 terrifying creatures are all born around the same time, with the exception of Private, who was born when the other 3 were just kids. The penguins of Madagascar are in fact Adelie penguins, which are found on the Antarctic coast. These types of penguins have a lifespan of about 10 to 20 years, so we're just going to cut it in the middle and say about 15. According to a tweet by one of the directors, Tom McGrath, who also played Skipper by the way, the penguins were about 35 to 40 years old in the films, just like the zoo gang. 1 human year actually equals 5.2 penguin years, so the penguins must be about 7 human years old during the events of the first movie, and I would say that Private probably would have been born when Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico were collectively around the 10 years, so that means that they would have had to have been just shy of 3 human years old, meaning that Private must have been about 4 human years old during the first movie, or in other words, 21 years old. So overall, Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico were about 37 in the first movie, and Private was 21, and that's the penguins. King Julien, the fun and energetic ring-tailed lemur king of Madagascar. I've been studying him for a while now, and here's what I've picked up. The ringtail's average lifespan is about 16 to 19 years. 1 human year is equivalent to exactly 4 human years. That means that lemurs live to around about 70 in the wild, being that fossa are a major threat. So that's the basics about the species itself. Now for King Julien. Right off the bat, we already know that based on his maturity, Julien would be in his young adulthood, so that restricts him to 20 to 30 years of age already. All Hail King Julien takes place over the course of 6 lemur years, meaning that Julien must have been about 20 years old when the show began, and 26 when the show ended. When the zoo gang got stranded in Madagascar, Julien was about 7 years old in human years, maybe a little younger. The franchise took place over the course of 5 to 7 whole animal years, as I've just already stated before in this video, meaning that Julien would have been in his early 30s when the franchise temporarily stopped at 3. Maurice, the slightly depressed royal advisor and best friend of the king. Maurice and Julien are the same age, meaning that they knew each other from lemur school as it is. There has been a bit of talk with that Maurice is older than Julien, but I can immediately put an end to that notion. Julien first met Maurice when they were babies, and Maurice looked slightly younger than Julien. I would say that there was a year's difference between them. Maurice is in fact an aye, and they live for about 23 years in the wild. Similar to lemurs, 1 human year equals 3.3 aye years. Maurice would have been alive for 8 whole human years when the zoo gang got stranded, or in other words, for aye years he would have been 25. Mort is not a child. He's not an adult. There has literally been an entire 3-hour theory made on him. This might sound crazy if you have not yet seen the show All Hail King Julien, or the theories for that matter, but Mort has been alive since the beginning of time. He was originally a sky god, and even now he's still an immortal being that has been alive for over 3.8 billion years. Generally speaking, the Goodman's mouse lemur has an average lifespan of 6 to 8 years, but obviously that does not apply to Mort. I don't even know if there's anything else that I can say about his age. He's just an utter anomaly of a character. So, that's the ages of each of the main characters of the Madagascar franchise. I hope that you really enjoyed watching. I'm trying to upload as regularly as possible. Check out some of my other videos, maybe even subscribe to the channel. Animationologist out.